Daf Samech Vav Amud Beis, 2 lines from the top. We learned previously the memory of Shmuel that said if you have 2 chatzeres, the one in the inner chatzer can be mevatel the reshus to the outer chatzer. So Amar Rav Yosef Leishmila Hashmaitz. Rav Yosef said, I did not hear this memory of Shmuel. So as we know that Rav Yosef Shachas, it was Chol of Shachach Talmudah, he got ill, he got sick and forgot some of his learning, so he constantly had to be reminded about things that he said in the past. So Amar Le Abaye said, Amrat Nahalat, you told this to us. Vaha Amrat Lan, and you told us regarding the following. The Amr Shmuel said, Ein bitl reshus mechatzer lachatzer. That there's no bitl reshus, you cannot be mevatel reshus from one chatzer to another chatzer. Meaning, people who are in one chotzer, the residents of one chotzer, they can make an eruv. If someone forgot in that chotzer, someone forgot to join in the eruv, so in order that he doesn't answer everybody, he can bevatel the reshus, he can relinquish his rights, and thereby allowing the people to carry in the chotzer. However, if you have 2 chotzeres that join together in an eruv, one chotzer they have their eruv, another chotzer has their eruv, there's a Pesach between them, an opening between them, they join together in an eruv. If somebody forgot from the one chotzer, you cannot be mevatel from one chotzer to another chotzer. It will not allow, the bittul will not allow carrying in the chotzeres. Even though we allow it within one chotzer, the Chum allowed the mechanism of bittul in order not to create that hardship that people should not be able to carry from the house to a chotzer. They allowed the mechanism of bittul. But if people have their own chatzeres and they can carry on their own chatzeres, it's only a question of then from one chotzer to another chotzer, and they join together in the chotzer, there to allow that they didn't have to join together to begin with, the 2 chatzeres. They could have carried without joining together. And the chaseres, the eruv between the chaseres is allowing them to carry from one to the other. So in that case, we did not allow bittul. So ein bittul reshus mechatzel chatzer, vein bittul reshus b'churba. And similarly, there's no bittul reshus in a churba. If you have 2 houses and there is a ruin between them, and there's a ruin between the 2 of them. And in order to carry from the house to the churba, we did not allow the mechanism of bittul. It's not allowed over there as well. And you told us regarding this memory of Shmuel, Ki Amar Shmuel ein bittul shus mechatzer lachatzer. When Shmuel said there's no bittul from one chatzer to another chatzer, lo yaman al shtei chatzeres a pesach echad beineim. That's only when there's 2 chatzeres, they're side by side. There's a wall and there's an opening between them. They have access. So they don't travel through the other to the Rishus Harabim. They have their own openings to the Rishus Harabim, and they have a window or a door between them, which is allow access between them. But there's no right of way between one and the other to get to the Rishus Harabim. They each have their own independent access to the Rishus Harabim. They also have a door between them. So when did Shmuel say that there's no bittul reshus mechatzer lachatzer lo yarmel shtei chatzeres pesach ad beineim? That's only in that scenario. Avazu lifnei mizu, but if one is behind the other, mitoich she'osim zelzeh mevatlim. Since they would answer on each other, they're mevatel. If you have the 2 chatzeres, one behind the other, so the inner one has a right of way through the outer one to get to the street, so he answers on it. They're right away, the passage over here, their drisas haregel asers on the outer one. So since they aser on each other, then we would allow bittul. Bittul would help in such a case. We do allow bittul from one chotzer to the other chotzer. Did I really say this in the name Shmuel? Shmuel said a rule that in Eruvin we only allow kulas that were clearly said in the lashon of the Mishnah, and what's said in the Mishnah, and otherwise we don't allow kulas. And it says anshe chaser But it doesn't say v'loy anshe chatzeres. It says anshe chatzer can be mevatel rishus, but not chatzeres. So that implies only within one chatzer. If somebody from one chatzer forgot to join the eruv, then he can be mevatel rishus, but not chatzeres, not from one chatzer to the other chatzer. So how could it be that Shmuel said that in the case where there's two chatzeres, an inner one and an outer one, that you can be mevatel rishus? When did you taught us that that ein be'er eloshim mishuseinu can only make it's only according to the wording of the Mishnah? It's not a general rule. It's not applying everywhere. It's referring specifically to a specific Mishnah. It's going on ha'amradlan. It's going on the following. On the following mission that says that the mavi to chatzerais are like a chatzer to batim. So therefore, it says a mavi to chatzerais, that therefore, in order to be matir a mavi with a lechir kaira, you need at least two chatzerais opening into the mavi with two houses in each chatzer. That's where we're medayik the word of the Mishnah. We're medayik specifically in that Mishnah to teach you that only if it has that minimum amount of chatzeres and batim can you be matir the mavi with a lechikar. But it's not a general rule all over, and therefore you can't be medayik and say that you cannot be mevatel chatzer l'chatzer just because it says anshe chatzer and not chatzeres. You cannot be medayik that there's no bittul mechatzer l'chatzer. Gufa. So now we're analyzing it. We're going to analyze in some detail this din of bittul from a chatzer to a chatzer. Gufa Amar Shmuel ein bittul rishus mechatzer l'chatzer. There's no bittul rishus from one chatzer to another. Vein bittul rishus b'chorba, and there's no bittul rishus in a chorba. Two houses with a ruin between them, bittul rishus does not help in that case as well. One party, one resident of one house, to mevatel, relinquish his rights in the churba to allow the other party to carry from his house to the churba does not help. The chachamim were matir it in the case of a tzairech in a chaser, but not in the case of a churba. But Rav Yochanan Amar yesh bittul rishus mechaser lechaser. But Rav Yochanan says no, there is bittul rishus mechaser yesh bittul rishus b'churba. And you have to tell me this machlokes in both cases, both from chatzer to chatzer and in a churba. If it only told me the case from the chatzer to another chatzer, I would have thought Shmuel. I would have said over here he said that there's no bittul rishus mishum tashmish l'chud v'tashmish l'chud, because each chatzer functions independently. They can use their own chatzer. They don't have to carry from one to the other. They have proper use of their own chatzer. So this mechanism of bittul, I would say that perhaps Dafka over there, Shmuel said, the Chachamim did not allow it. They made this kula that there's bittul rishus within a chatzer to allow people to carry from a house to a chatzer, because it's a hardship if they cannot. If one person forgot to join the eruv, they were mekel, and they allowed the mechanism of bittul rishus, that he can relinquish his rights, and therefore the carrying would be permitted. However, in the case of a chatzer to a chatzer, where they can function independently, there was not such a need to allow this kula of bittul, and they didn't allow it. That both houses have the same access to the churba. They don't function independently, and they both use this jointly. I would have thought that Shmuel would be moed to Rav Yochanan and bittul would help. So Kamash Malan that he holds it doesn't. And if it only told me on the case, I would say Dafka in the case of the churba, I would say Baha Ka'amar Rav Yochanan over there, he says that bittul helps over there because they both use the churba. Aval Baha, in the case of the chatzeros, Aval Bahach rather, Maida Shmuel. I would have thought perhaps in the case of the chatzeros he would be Maida Shmuel. That's why it has to tell me that machlokes applies in both cases. In both cases, Shmuel and Rav Yochanan argue. Amar Abaya. So Abaya has a different view of Shmuel's Shita. So Abaya says, Amar Abaya, Hod Amar Shmuel ein bitl reshus mechatzel l'chatzer. So that he said there's no bitl reshus mechatzel l'chatzer, he says lo yamar el mishtei chatzeres pesach ad beineim. That's only if there is two chatzeres side by side. There's a pesach between them. They each have access to the reshus harabim. They don't aser on each other. And over there, that's where he said that the bitl reshus does not help mechatzel l'chatzer. So that's only elamishte chatzeres pesach beineim. Aval beis chatzeres zu lifnim zu. But if they have the two chatzeres, one is behind the other. The inner one has access as a right of way where he passes over the outer one to the reshus harabim. So he has reshus haregel, and that will aser if they're not merged together in one eruv. The inner one will aser on the outer one. Aval beis chatzeres zu lifnim zu mitoyach sha'isrei mevatlem. Since they would aser. The with aser on the outer chaser, therefore bittul will help. And Rav Amar says no. He says even in this case, then still pam mevatlim pam ein mevatlim. Sometimes there will be bittul, and sometimes there's no bittul. Generally speaking, even in this case, bittul will not help, even if they're behind each other. However, there is a scenario where it will help. So he's going to outline the four scenarios, and only in the one case we say that the bittul will help. Ketzer. So you have the chaseras one behind the other. They each one have their own eruv, but then they join together in an eruv. They join the two chaseras together to allow them to carry from one to the other. Well, now they become one. And so if they put the eruv in the outer chotzer, and one member doesn't make a difference whether it's from the outer chotzer or the inner chotzer, and he forgot to join the eruv, they're both also. If they put the eruv in the inner one, and someone from the inner one forgot to join the eruv, they're both also. But if one of the members of the outer one, forgot and was not ma'ariv, pnimis muter, so chitzayna asura. The pnimis is muter, and the chitzayna is also. So therefore, really, the only case that it's muter is in a case where they join together, where the two chatzeres join together, and one member forgot to join in the eruv. The only case that it's muter is that one of the outer members forgot, someone from the outer chatzer forgot to join the eruv, and in the case where the eruv is placed in the inner chatzer. That's the only case where bittul will help. It's in a case where they join together in eruv, and one of the members of the outer chaser forgot, and where the eruv was placed in the inner chaser. There it helps. In all the other cases, it's also. Now, the underlying principle of why it should be mutter is in a case where the eruv is in the inner chaser, and one of the outer ones forgot to join. So essentially what happens is that the inner chaser says that, it doesn't have to be stated, it's as if they declare that they can back out of this joining of the eruv. That they only wanted to have the eruv was only there to benefit them. Now that a member of the outer chaser has not joined and will create an isser for them, then they, in effect, nullify the eruv that they made together, and they act independently. And since the eruv is placed in their chaser, then they can be independent of the outer chaser, and therefore disregard the outer chaser, and they're mutter to carry. But as we'll see in the other cases, this will not work out. So the Gemara will explain. If they put the Eruv in the outer Chotzer, and someone forgot and didn't join the Eruv, then Bittul doesn't help. Shtein Asuras, they're both awesome. So now the Gemara will analyze. Hi bar pnimis leman niftal. So if in the case where the inner ones, a member of the inner Chotzer, forgot to join, who should he be mevatel to? Liftal b'nei pnimis, should he be mevatel it to the other members of the inner Chotzer? Well, that won't help because less eruva gabaya. The Eruv is not placed in the inner Chotzer; it's placed in the outer Chotzer. And if it's placed in the outer Chotzer, therefore, again, as we said, the only way to really be matcha this is if the inner is divorced from the outer. Now, if they are not separated from each other, then if one person forgot to join in the Eruv, that person will answer on everybody, because both the inner and the outer are all merged together, they're one. Now, if the Eruv is placed then in the outer Chotzer, if someone from the inner Chotzer forgot to join the Eruv, it's not going to help him to be mevatel reshus to the other members of the inner Chotzer, because they cannot separate and be independent of the outer Chotzer because the Eruv is not here. The Eruv is in the outer Chotzer. So he can't be mevatel to the pnimis, less le'eruv gabayim. Liftal b'nei chatzayim. So to say that he should be mevatel reshus to the outer one, and therefore he's non-existent, and he doesn't answer on anybody, but Shmuel said, Ein bittul reshus mechotzel chotzer. Shmuel holds, and according to Rava, even in this case, that there's no bittul reshus mechotzer l'chotzer. So he can't be mevatel from the inner one cannot be mevatel to the outer one, because there's no bittul reshus mechotzer l'chotzer. Now, hi bar chitzayna, let's say the case is where when the outer person from the outer chotzer forgot to join there, hi bar chitzayna l'man niftal, who should he be mevatel? Liftal b'nei chitzayna, to be mevatel to the outer ones, ika pnimis ta'asralai. It won't help because he still has there's an Eruv, they merge, the two chotzeres are merged together. He can't only be mevatel to the outer ones, he has to be mevatel to everybody, because they're joined together in this Eruv. Now, he can't be mevatel to the inner ones, because again, ein bittul shus mechotzer l'chotzer. So, liftal b'nei chitzayni k'pnimis ta'asralai. It's not enough just to be mevatel to the outer ones. They're all merged together in one Eruv. You have to be mevatel to everybody, so that includes the inner ones. Liftal b'nei pnimis and bittul reshus mechotzer l'chotzer. To do it to the inner ones, Shmuel holds, and Rav holds in this case as well, he would hold that ain't bittul reshus mechotzer l'chotzer. No, but if the Eruv is placed in the inner one, if someone from the inner one forgot to join the Eruv, shtei masuras. Because, hi bar pnimis laman niftal. Who should he be mevatel to? Liftal b'nei pnimis. If he be mevatel only to the inner ones, eika chitzayna da'asrala. The other ones will answer. You have to be mevatel to everybody. And since they join together in the Eruv, you can't just be mevatel to the inner ones. You have to be mevatel to everyone. Liftal b'nei chitzayna, to be mevatel to the outer ones, ein bittul reshus mechotzer l'chotzer. There's no bittul reshus from chotzer mechotzer l'chotzer, so that won't be enough. But if one of the outer ones forgot and didn't join the Eruv, vaday pnimis mutaris. But then the inner one would be mutar. Then, as we said before, then it's, so to speak, it's as if they say, we want to back out of this arrangement of the Eruv. We are now independent. You are causing us to be in Isser to carry even on our own chotzer. We want to be independent of you. The Eruv is now in their chotzer. They can be independent and say that they're not a part of the Eruv, and they can continue to carry. So, but that's only if someone from the outer one forgot. If someone from the inner one forgot, then they can't back out because they're the ones that are causing the Isser. So they can't say that, therefore, it was, we have a right. The Chum didn't give them the right to back out and say, you're causing us an Isser to carry, and therefore we want to undo and be mevatel the Erev that we made together. If someone from the outer Chotzer, he forgot to join, the outer Chotzer now is causing an Isser for the inner one, they have the Erev inside, they, so to speak, close the door, and they close the door and say, okay, we're divorced from you, we're separate, we undo the merger that we made, we're unraveling the merger that we made, and we're acting independently. And then it's mutter. So that's the case where it's mutter. But since Shmuel holds that in bittul mechatzer lechatzer, it won't help, because in a case where the inner and outer chatzeres made an erev together, you have to be mevatel to everybody, and you can't just be mevatel to your own chatzer and ein bittul mechatzer lechatzer. The only way that it can work is if the inner one can divorce themselves from the outer one, and therefore say that we are not part of this erev, and unravel the merger that they made, However, in the opposite case, in the reverse case, if one of the inner ones forgot, and the erev is in the outer chotzer, perhaps you'll say, well, let's do the same thing. And why shouldn't we say in that case as well, we'll let the outer ones say that to the inner ones, you forgot to join the Erev, and therefore you're causing us to have an Isser to carry within our own Chatzar, let's unravel the merger. There, you can't say that, because the inner ones have the right of way to walk through the outer ones, and their Drissus Arega will answer on them. So it's only in the case where the inner one forgot, and the Erev is in the inner Chatzar, that they can unravel it, and they can therefore say we want to unravel the merger, and they will be mutter in their own Chatzar.